Hello, this is Daryl at 10 Foot Truck Good Attitude Services. It's a beautiful day today. I just got back from doing an estimate, which will be, hopefully the job will be booked sometime this week. And I got some other jobs booked up, some deliveries, and I got to move. So this week's looking really good. It's going to be a lucrative week for me, and I'm happy, and the weather's really nice. Now with the estimate, I wanted to talk about that because I've kind of got a system going now because of mistakes I made in the past. Since I'm not really all that experienced in junk removal, it's something I just added maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And now I'm just really marketing more and more as time goes on. There are mistakes I've made that at least for me, that just didn't work. Like I used to do estimates over the phone. If someone would send the photos of the items, and then I just would do the estimate according to the photos. And it was just too many times where the photos were deceptive, and it just didn't, not that they were the customer's trying to be deceptive, it just, sometimes photos, when you get there, it's totally different. You can't, in a picture, things just don't look the same. And I would dig through a pile, and it would be way more, and it would be like, wow, that's a lot more than I thought it was. But I already given the guy the estimate, and so I just stuck with the price because that's just the way I am. I'm not going to try to up the price. I just want to have the price estimated, and maybe that's not the way I should do it. But what I have figured out is that what works for me best is having everything in the truck, the tools, and ready to do the job that day. When they call and say, and I always tell them I could do a free estimate. I'll come out there today or whenever it's convenient, and I'll show up with all the tools and things I need to do that job with the truck. And if they agree to the price and they like the price, then I give them the option I can do the job right there and get it done that day. Of course, that didn't happen today because the customer was needing to consolidate things and donate some other things and get it all consolidated and organized so that I can come back and do a truckload. But it just works for me because I can go in there, I can look around, they can show me everything, and I can get a better idea. And then I can show them the truck, open up the truck, and show them the size of the truck, and so they can get an idea, like that it's going to work, and that there'll be enough room in that truck, and kind of gives them a visual too. So when they hear the price, they can see if it's fair for them or not. So that's kind of what I do now. And I just go prepared with the truck as I'm going to do the job that day. So that works for me. Everyone does it differently, but that's kind of the way. I think I'm going to stick with that. Unless it's like really, really far away, where it wouldn't be worth for me to drive all the way out there, and and maybe just work with the pictures. But I really prefer to show up at the site and look at it in person. It makes it it gives a better estimate, I think, in my opinion, for me. And so I did that. And then another thing I want to talk about is I've been getting a lot of jobs, especially in moving, not in junk removal, but in doing moves, where the customer had already hired somebody, a moving company or a mover, and last minute they don't show up. Like the day that they're supposed to move, the guy just doesn't answer his phone, disconnects his phone, or doesn't, removes the ad and just doesn't show up. And that's happened a lot over the years, all the way back when I first started doing moving labor. So many customers, I can't count how many customers would call me last minute because their mover that day didn't show up. And it's like, I can't believe they do that, because like, why would you? I've never done that. I mean, if I book a job, unless something like an emergency or something happens, I'm going to show up at that job, because I know, especially in moving, you have your lease is over and you sign a new lease, or you bought a new house or whatever it is. You have to be out that day. That's going to cause all kinds of problems for that person if they can't get their items out of that apartment. They're going to be charged extra. It's going to cause a lot of problems for them, and I would feel bad about that. I would never want to be responsible for causing problems for people because of my irresponsibility and not showing up to the job. If I'm not going to show up, I will make sure, at least if something's an emergency or something happens, I'll make sure that I give them at least a 24-hour notice. I would like to give them more of that notice than that, maybe 72 hours, to get someone else, because it's not easy finding movers, and it causes a lot of stress on these people when they have to do that. And I've showed up a lot of jobs where that's happened. Even big moving companies, like, you know, nationwide moving companies. I won't name any names, but yeah, they do that too. They'll book a job and they just won't show up. I'm not sure why, but I'd assume that they were just signing up. They were just booking too many jobs, and maybe they didn't have enough employees, and they just weren't managing their time right. That's all I can think of. But I feel like if you're going to book a job, I think, you know, to do the job, basically, unless it's something, like I said, and unless it's an emergency where you can't. But yeah, that happens a lot, and just happened recently a couple times, and I was like, wow, it just happens too often. And there's no way the customer, like, you know, there's no way they're gonna predict that. I mean, you talk to someone on the phone, how do you know that they're not gonna show up? So yeah, you can get a lot of work on the moving, if you advertise moving, just for a job like that people don't show up. I had one guy, he called me, it was like the morning, I think it was it was like 2 hours after the movers were supposed to show up, and he's like, it was weird because he called and said that they actually were supposedly on their way, and like according to them on the phone, like, we're on our way, and then they don't show up, and then he calls and said, oh, we're just about there, and then the next call is like nothing. No one answers, and never heard from him again. So I was like, huh, well, I was very grateful that I showed up. Gave me a good tip on that one. Yeah, it's just that's a problem out there. I don't know why it's like that. My theory is that they're just overbooking. Like, I never overbook. That's one thing I learned early on is that, especially with moves, I mean, it can go with junk removal or any other type of service, is that sometimes things are going to take a little longer than you expected. So you always want to have that, when you look at a job, give it a little bit of extra time in your mind. Don't just book back-to-back jobs because there's always something that could happen that would cause you to be maybe an hour or 2 hours late. So give it a little bit extra each job, so that it doesn't happen. Because if you commit to a certain time for a customer, of course, you're going to show up sometimes a little bit late, but maybe 15, 20 minutes, even half an hour may not be a big deal. But you start showing up an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours late, or don't show up at all, that's just a problem. So managing your schedule time correctly and giving a little extra time just in case something happens, and not overbooking your, if I don't have employees, it's just me, so I don't have to worry about that. But like, if you're booking 5, 6, 7, or 8 jobs and you have employees that are going out and doing the work, you know how that can be. Some employees just don't show up, they call in sick, or they flake. So that's happened. That happened one time to me when I had a job where I had to have a crew on a job, and the guy showed up, but the job was a very, very long job. It went from, that job was more of an extreme moving job. It was 5 26-foot trucks full of household goods, and it took, I think, it took all the way into the night. I mean, we had to have floodlights. I mean, it was so late, but these guys all showed up saying they were going to be there and work the whole job. I confirmed it with them. We're going to need, it's going to be an all-day job. It's a big job. Oh yeah, no problem. We'll show up. We'll do the job. And but of course, halfway through the job, most of them left. They just couldn't take it. It was too much work for them. So I ended up finishing the job on my own. So yeah, I don't have employees. It's just me now. But unless I have a family member or a friend who come out and help me. But it's hard managing. I mean, I can see how it'd be difficult in that situation. So when you're overbooking and you have these people that you're not sure if they're going to show up, or if they do show up, are they going to stay on the job? Yeah, it can be tricky, but it's better just to play it safe in my mind, and to give that extra time if you're going to book, and to make sure, you know, with all your power to be able to do that job, because that's customers is going to be calling you back. It's going to be a repeat customer. If you don't show up, they're never going to call you back, and they may even complain about you. So you don't want that to happen. So try to show up to all your jobs. That's about all I have to say today. Putting up some more ads, and hopefully I'll fill the whole week up this week. Solid with jobs, if it's junk removal or moving. It's going to be great weather, so perfect time to work. Good Attitude Services 10-foot trucks signing out. Have a great day.